Hey, Steve Stine from GuitarZoom here, and I want to talk to you about 5 open chords that are absolutely crucial for your playing to be able to play songs. These 5 chords will be used in literally hundreds, if not thousands of songs that you learn how to play. So let's go ahead and look at these 5 chords. Now, you're going to have a PDF that you're going to be able to look at as well. But let me explain these chords to you. There are 5 of them. There are 3 major chords, major meaning that they're kind of happier in sound. And then there's 2 minor chords. You can always tell the difference. Well, let's even start here. What is a chord? Well, a chord is when you play a bunch of notes at the same time. That's essentially what a chord is. So if I did this, I'd be making a chord. It's kind of an ugly sounding chord, but that's what it would be. So as I put my fingers in different places, I create different kinds of chords. Now, the 3 major or happier sounding chords are going to be G, C, and D. And when you see those chords written, people don't say like, oh, please play me a D major chord or play me an E major chord or whatever. We don't have to say the word major. We understand that the chord is major. So if I asked you to play a G chord, you know I'm talking about G major. I don't have to say that. So this chord right here is G major or simply G. This one is C major, or we can just say C. And this one is, again, D major, or we can just say D. When we talk about minor chords, and we have 2 of them we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the E minor and the A minor. You can even kind of hear how they sound a little bit more sad or dark. Okay, minor chords are always written with a little M behind it, so it would say A-M, or A for A minor, or E-M. The little M means minor. That way you always know. So if you want minor, you have to specify by saying minor. And when we write it, which again you'll be able to see in the PDF, it's written with a little M. Now, most songs use combinations of these chords. So what we want to do is first learn what these chords are. So let's take a look at this G chord, okay? Now, the way I'm playing this G right now is I'm putting my 3rd finger on the 1st string at the 3rd fret. And then I'm going to put my middle finger all the way up on the 6th string on the 3rd fret as well. So they're both in the 3rd fret, okay? Then my 1st finger is going to go to the 5th string on the 2nd fret. And always remember, when you're making chords, the goal is to make sure that you get close enough to the oncoming silver piece, which we call the fret wire. Don't get on top of it, because it'll sound weird, but get right next to it. That way you don't have to work as hard. The further away from that fret wire that you get, the harder it is to press down that string. So the rule is always get as close as you can to that next fret wire, okay, with all your fingers. The second thing is make sure that your fingers are only touching the strings that you want them to press on. That way you're going to get the cleanest sounds possible. Okay? So this is your G chord, G major. This is your G chord. Very, very important chord. Okay? Now, once you've learned a chord, a really good thing for you to practice is a technique that I call bouncing, which is where you take your fingers and you pretend like they're super glued together. And you pick your fingers up, and then you set it back down. And what you're trying to do is develop what we call muscle memory. You're trying to train your hand to make that shape. Because the key to playing chords quickly is not doing this. Okay, if I said to you, play a G chord, and you go, and you take 3 minutes to make the chord, that's too long. You're never going to be able to play songs that way. So the trick is, first of all, you have to memorize the chord that you want in your brain. Like this is G. I have to be able to see it in my head so I can make it on my guitar. And then the second thing I need to do is I need to practice my muscle memory. I need to train myself to make that chord. So if I was sitting here and I wanted a G chord, what I could do is think in my mind, okay, I need G. I can see it on my guitar. So now as I lift my hand, my fingers automatically make, see that? They automatically make the shape that I want, so I can simply pick it up and set it down. Pick it up and set it down. You see? So that's what you want to do with each one of these chords as you learn them. So you've got your G or G major. Okay? The next one is what we call a C chord or C major. We want to put the 1st finger on the 2nd string, 1st fret. Again, get as close as you can to that fret wire. Your middle finger is going to go on the 4th string, 2nd fret. and your ring finger, your third finger, is going to go on the 5th string, 3rd fret. Now you don't want to strum the 6th string on this one, just the bottom 5. On the G, you could strum everybody, but this one we're going to stay away from this. So we're just strumming those bottom 5. Now I'm going to give you another little bit of advice. When I was making the G chord, my elbow was here. That's where it feels most comfortable to me. You'll notice my wrist is down, right? My thumb is behind the guitar. I'm not sitting up like this. My wrist is down a little bit. But when I make C, you'll notice my elbow comes inward. Okay? And the reason for that is the G chord, my long fingers were up on top. But when I make a C chord, my 3rd finger is now the one that's towards the top. If I turn my hand this way, there's no way this poor finger is going to reach up there. But if I can turn inward, I give that finger more room to be able to reach. So I want you to be aware that this arm needs to be loose. You can't have it on your leg trying to do things. Keep your elbow loose, so if you want G, it goes here. If you want C, you can slide on in here, and you can turn the angle of your hand so that 3rd finger's got a fighting chance to get all the way up here. All right? Then our next chord is called the D, or D major chord. And this one is making a little triangle on the bottom here. We're taking our 1st finger, placing it on the 3rd string on the 2nd fret. We're putting our middle finger on the 1st string, also in the 2nd fret. And then we're taking our 3rd finger and placing it on the 2nd string on the 3rd fret. And again, I want to get as close to the fret wire as possible. And this one, I'm just going to strum the bottom 4 strings. Now, if I do accidentally strum too many strings, it's okay. It happens to all of us. But my directive is to try and hit the bottom 4. C, bottom 5. G, all 6. So again, if you look at my elbow, here's G, here's C, right? And here's D. Now D, again, I'm turning a little bit so my elbow comes out a little bit. You're going to have to explore this a little bit and see what works best for you. Okay? Then we move on to our 2 minor chords. We have E minor, which I play with my middle finger and 3rd finger on the 5th and 4th strings at the 2nd fret. And then if I want A minor, I take these 2 fingers, I move them down 1 string, so they're now on the 3rd and 4th strings, and I add my 1st finger onto the 2nd string at the 1st fret. Now, don't be in a hurry to learn all 5 of these. If you don't know them all, you need to take them one at a time, okay? And develop each one by visualizing them, by bouncing them, right? Making sure that you're in the right position, making sure your elbow's in a comfortable place. E minor, again, E minor, my elbow can kind of be just about anywhere. A minor, kind of the same thing. Kind of comes out a little bit. But if I wanted C, I would turn in a little bit again and make that work. So we have a G major, or G, C major, or C, D major, or just D. Then we have E minor and A minor. Now, all these chords actually belong to a family we call a key. In music, we call it the key. Like in this case, we have the key of G, which means they all belong to the same family. So when you're learning songs, oftentimes you're going to see D, C, and G all playing together in the same songs. Okay? Or E minor, or A minor. Okay? We use a lot of those all together when we play music. Okay, so the first step is memorizing each one individually. Don't be in a hurry. If you kind of know something in guitar, if you sort of know something, you don't really know it. Okay, you have to really know something to be able to use it and feel good about it and feel confident with it and perform with it, those sorts of things. So the trick is take each chord individually and really, really spend quality time learning to see it, learning to bounce it, and then clarifying it, making it as clean as possible, making sure you're in the right position, everything feels comfortable to you. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you one other little bonus thing. If you have done some of this before and you'd like a little trick, I'm going to show you something else that's really cool. I'm going to show you the GCD quick trick here that many guitar players tend to use. And what happens now, if you don't know any of the first chords, don't really worry about this right now, although this is kind of cool. But let me show you this. Instead of playing G with 3 fingers, what I'm going to do is play G with 4 fingers. Now, this is not in your PDF, so you got to pay attention, okay? So what I'm doing is instead of playing with 3 fingers, I'm taking my third finger and I'm moving it up 1 string and putting my pinky underneath. So these 2 fingers are on the 1st and 2nd strings on the 3rd fret, and these 2 are in the same place they were before. And that's how you can make what we call a 4-finger G. Now, in the future of your guitar playing, it doesn't matter whether you play G as a 3-finger or a 4-finger, and songs won't tell you. You just find what's most comfortable for you. That's the most important thing. So we have G. Now I'm playing it with 4 fingers. But the cool thing is, if I learn to play G this way and I want to go to C, there's a shortcut that people often use. And what you do is you just take these 2 fingers and you move down 1 string, and they play C like this, which sounds a little different, but it's very common for guitar players. So you have G and C. And you'll see what's cool about it is these 2 fingers don't move at all. Let me play it the old way so you can hear the difference. Now, some people like to play their G and C this way, and that is great. And some people like to play their G and C this way, and that's okay too. I'll play them both ways. It just depends on what I'm in the mood for. Again, I don't get hung up on whether the song tells me I'm supposed to play C a certain way. Whatever feels good is the way I tend to do it. And D stays the same. But the nice thing is if you're playing G with 4 fingers like this, and you move down to C, okay, what you can do is leave that 3rd finger where it is and pivot to D, and it never has to come off the guitar. And again, some people don't like that at all. Some people don't like to play it that way. And they like to play it the old way. I shouldn't say the old way, but the first way I showed you. And it's okay either way. I just want to give you some advice and give you a little tip and see if that might help you, and you can decide what you like best.